On this video, we're going back into the comedy world for only the second comedy timeline that we've got, but we're not going to stray too far away from the horror timelines as we cover the Scary Movie series. That's right, we're going to see how the continuity and timeline is of a series that you're not really supposed to take seriously. But we're going to try and take it seriously. Way back in 2000, we saw the release of the first Scary Movie, a fairly close parody of Scream, which starts off with the Drew Barrymore scene, but with Carmen Electra. The killer's looking at a fake Playboy dated 2000, so that's probably our year, and we meet Cindy and her boyfriend Bobby. Cindy looks a lot like she'll bang Star-Lord someday, and we meet Brenda and her brother Shorty, popular Buffy, played by remake Angela, and our Gale Weathers analog, played by that lady from SNL that was in... Oh, nothing. There's also closeted Ray, and didn't I just see this guy in Transformers 4? They shift into I Know What You Did Last Summer for a bit, and we finally meet our Dewey character, who's Doofy here, and then Squiggy shows up and people start dying. And there's a What's Up parody that I'm sure younger audiences watching will be completely confused by. Shannon Elizabeth bites it, and they go see Shakespeare in Love, which came out in 98, so I'm guessing this is like a third-run theater or something, and things play out pretty much the same way they do in Scream. Bobby and Ray are the killers, but surprise, they're not. Cindy takes him out, and in a final Kaiser Soze, it turns out that the killer was Doofy all along. And they drive off in a car with a year 2000 registration plates, so that's confirmed. And Cindy gets run over. 1 year later, Scary Movie 2 appeared, focusing more on supernatural horror than the slashers of the first movie, and starts off with an Exorcist parody. And then flashes to 1 year later, and Cindy's back and in college now as a freshman. So it's a year later, and we're in 2001. Shorty's here, alive again, and so is Ray, now joined by Francis and Bert. Brenda's also back to life, and Stab Sidney Prescott's here. OG Pennywise and Tobias say that there's all survivors of the Stevenson County Massacre and take them for an experiment to Hell House, where Woogie is waiting with his hand, and Kathleen Robertson's looking pretty damn. There's a Poltergeist clown parody, and Tori gets gory, and when Kane's ghost shows up, he's Bull. And there's a Hannibal parody with Shorty's brain, who's as bad as can, and you know he's the best. There's a Charlie's Angels parody and a fight scene, and they zap Kane, and 2 months later, Hanson gets run over. So look, I know this is a comedy, and it's silly to talk continuity because it's jokes, son. But the fact that Cindy's friends are all back to life with no mention of how they are, or the fact that Ray tried to kill her, let's just assume this is an alternate universe to the first in which events of the first one were similar, but clearly different. 2 years later, 2003 gave us a Scary Movie 3, now PG-13 and no longer featuring any Wayans. We kick off with Pam Anderson and the real killer of the film. Seriously, lady, polio is making a comeback, so screw you. We then meet Topper Harley. You thought I was going to make a winning joke, didn't you? And ex-porn star Simon Rex. Cindy's now blonde and a news anchor, so it's definitely a good amount of time after the last one, especially since Brenda's back and says that it's been so long. She has a creepy nephew now, although there's never been any mention of Cindy's sister before, so between the amount of time needed here and those differences, it's pretty clear we've rebooted reality again, and this is a third continuity. A reality where an 8 Mile parody belongs in a spoof of horror movies, I guess. And Anthony Anderson and Kevin Hart pop in, and Brenda gets killed again, this time by the Ring. Queen Latifah and Eddie Griffin show up, as does the Piven, and then the late great king of comedy, Leslie Nielsen, Frank Drebin, Dr. Rumack Dick Steele as the president. Cindy's web search shows a headline asking her to play 2003 fantasy football, so that's our year, and confirms that this is an alternate reality to the other films, as there's no way that only 2 years ago she was a college freshman and is now a successful news anchor. It shifts into yet another Matrix parody with the later greater king of comedy, Rufus! Aliens invade, as we shift to Signs, and a group of rappers show up, including the most famous one, Macy Gray. The aliens are good, and are trying to stop the fake Samara, And eventually the president does it with an airplane callback, and Cindy and George then get married. It took 3 more years to get 2006 Scary Movie 4 from the same team as Part 3, and starts off by doing Saw with Shaq and Phil. And Charlie's back, and Cindy's back, but George is gone, and Tom dies. But then we meet another Tom, and Mahalik and CJ are back, and there's a Grudge parody, and a $1 Million Baby scene with Mike Tyson that shows George's death. A War of the Worlds gag, and these parodies are just kind of random. The first ones at least have like a common theme, but this is just kind of like, oh, here's some movies that are out now. Brenda's back, surprisingly alive again, although they actually mentioned that Cindy thought she was dead, so at least it's called out this time. Chris Elliott makes his cameo, and Lone Star shows up, and Carmen Electra comes back to the franchise. President Nielsen comes back, there's a Village parody, and this cover of FHM is from 2005, so we're at least past that. And Jigsaw here is one of the aliens as we finally get back to the Saw parody. And Cindy says that she lost her eye in a bar fight in '96, which would have been 4 years before the first film, and she would have been around 14. So if we weren't sure that this is an alternate continuity, we are now. They make Tom choose between being killed and saving his kids in a trap that's actually better than some of the ones in the Saw movies. And the aliens die from an STD from Brenda. And James Earl Jones and fake Oprah wrap things up. And let's go ahead and call this 2006 so we have 3 years for Cindy's boxing career and stuff with George, I guess. Things were quiet until 2013's Scary Movie 5, which I actually didn't even know existed until I started researching. Charlie's back, this time playing himself, and Lindsay Lohan also as herself. She sees herself on the news for her trial, which happened in 2013, so I guess that's when we're set. We parody Mama with Snoop and the late Mac Miller, and a Disney Girl is our new lead since Anna Faris finally said no to something. But Simon Rex is back, again playing Charlie Sheen's brother, but he's a totally new character. We do Paranormal Activity, and A Planet of the Apes, and King Cruz shows up, and Jodie is somehow able to play a bass riff without even moving her left hand, and then they flat out say it's 2013, and then we do Black Swan, and Deception, and 50 Shades of Grey, because, you know, they're scary movies, right? I mean, it's in the title. Well, I guess at least Evil Dead counts. And then there's a Honey Boo Boo joke, which... Okay, let me explain. See, kids, for about 10 minutes back in the early part of the decades, there was a very, very popular reality show about a bunch of horrible, horrible people ruining a little girl's life. Haley shows up, and then there's a face-off with Mama on a cliff, and oh my god, can't wait for this to be over. So there you have it. It's 5 movies that don't really tie together whatsoever. Even when they do tie together, they don't tie together. But they're not supposed to. It's a comedy series. It's not supposed to take it that seriously. That's not going to stop me from doing so. But there you go. I enjoyed watching most of these. From the first 3 I kind of had fun with. The 4th one was pushing it. The 5th one was difficult to get through. But let me know if you enjoy them. Let me know what you thought of this video down below. Also, let me know what other comedy timelines you want to see, or if you don't want to see any more at all, you can let me know that too. Also, like, subscribe, hit all those buttons that you're not supposed to. Check out the Patreon page over here. Check out my patrons up here. Tell them thank you. And in the meantime, I'll see you in a little while for another great video. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.